We are a podcast for product marketers and B2B SaaS who feel misunderstood of what they do.
From someone who truly gets what you do and
basically help you feel less like a misfit, being unignorable in your role. Hello and welcome to another episode of Word on Marketers for Season 4. Today we have an amazing guest with us, but before introducing her, I just want to get back to basic. Just in case you don't remember who's talking to you right now, Gab Bugeaud, Sales Deck Associate. I just do Sales Deck until I die, and I'll pass it up to one of my co-hosts, Eric.
Yeah, I'm much luckier. I'm just the Franken marketer of the group, mashed together, all gross and disgusting, while Zach takes the last of the group. Go ahead, Zach.
Hey, this is Zach, the sales water lad. Gab, I pass it back to you.
Thank you. And today we have a returning face, and it's actually the only guest we got that has been here twice. I'll introduce her again, but we're very excited to have with us today Michele Nieberding. Michele is a director of product marketing. She's a Martech queen. She's sharing a lot of stuff for PMMs called the PMM hacks on LinkedIn. If you haven't seen her post, please check her out. She also was a top sales performer at Cvent and has led product marketing team at huge names such as Qualtrics and Iterable. And also, because it's not enough, she also has been nominated twice as a top 100 product marketing leaders. So, Michele, we're super excited to having you today.
Oh, I'm ready. Round 2. Let's go. I'm excited. Thank you for having me.
Michele, we got to say that this has been a very coveted title to have. We've had people back to back, we're knocking at our doors saying, yo, I want to come back a second time. But we said this spot is reserved for Michele only. So we're happy we made that happen.
Exactly.
I'm here for it. This is the energy I need today, guys. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for being here a second time. We hope we didn't scare you first on the first time.
That's what I thought.
Exactly.
Wait, the first time, did we ask the coveted question the first time around, or did we?
You're asking the person with the baddest memory of the group, but I think we did. But we're going to be asking it again because you know that I should have watched the episode back just to make sure. But Michele, everyone goes through it. Are product marketers actually marketers? Why or why not?
Oh my God. In my opinion, absolutely not. Because when you put product marketing under marketing, that's when you get basically the glorified content marketer. Truly, you get stuck lifting all of the MQLs up and helping your teams in MQL world. But I would say on the other side too, we're also obviously not product managers, maybe not as obvious, but those that are under product don't get caught in the hamster wheel of product launches. I call it a launch hamster. You don't want to do that either. So on either side, there are struggles, there are issues, but once you put yourself as a marketer, you are stuck with those KPIs and you tend to lean towards those more traditional marketing initiatives that are sometimes more executional, less strategic, and personally drives me nuts. So I think I said this at the last PMA in DC. If you're a product marketer and you specifically are tied to MQLs, like run, get out. So in my opinion, no.
I love it. I love that take. And it's like another red flag to look at is if you report to the CRO. I think you're going to have a bad time with trying to showcase your value.
A new one. CMO's leaving. It's, I had to put them under CRO. I'll have fun.
Yeah, you're like, okay, so my role is actually very much tied to revenue right now. I need to get shit done. And I'm not saying that we should not try to not get shit done as PMM, but let's try to do it in a fashion where it's not always just short-term wins and like forgetting long-term initiatives, basically.
Yeah, playing the long game for sure.
Exactly. Quick question for you before we start. We actually started, so I don't know what the hell am I saying, but you have been both in sales and marketing before going into product marketing. We know Zach and Eric have both played and dwelled in sales, but you touch both. What do you think PMM should gather or develop for each role that can give them more influence today?
Yeah, for sure. So I definitely want to hear from Zach too. I feel like you can take us out of sales, but you can't take sales out of us. I don't know. It's one of those things where sales definitely taught me a lot. I would say the two biggest things is one, really truly understanding the customer, because if you don't, you won't make sales, but like truly, what are the pain points? What are the objections? What do they care about? So really understanding the customer, but at the same time, understanding the product. Do you know how it works? Do you know how to tell the story of how to solve those pain points? Are you showing the right things and not just click. I think one of my, I guess it was like last year, which is a little scary. I love, like, I geek out on good product launches or events. Canva did one last year that I loved, and it wasn't re-click here. It was a really good story, and I loved this one point they were showing how you can zoom in on images. And if you've ever, and we've all made PowerPoints, right? And you try and make an image bigger and it looks like crap, it's blurry, it's not good. And they just kept zooming in on an image and zooming in. It was still clear the whole time to really emphasize that what seems to be such a small feature is like such a big deal to those who care about it. So I say that because I do think sales definitely teaches you, yes, to be customer obsessed, but product obsessed, and how to tell that story together. At least good salespeople will do that. Again, definitely want to hear from Zach, his take on that. And then from the marketing side, which maybe I'll dig into a little bit more later, is like there is, and this is very hard for product marketing, but the want and desire to be data driven. I don't love the word data driven. I like the only thing that should drive is a car. It's fine. But to use data to support things that you're saying. So when you're doing things like messaging Gab, like you're basically messaging, I don't know, calculator, the way to actually score these things in a quantifiable way is really important. And because marketing constantly is checking conversions and MQLs and all this data, how can product marketing use that kind of information or use data in a way to support what we're saying, so that's not just subjective, we think this is going to work, our gut feeling says this messaging is going to work, or this positioning is going to work, and actually bringing data to that as well. So
driving a car, oh my gosh, you had me cracking up off the mic here, Michelle.
Can you imagine though if cars were like, hey, this is a human driven whatever, right? Like
Waymo would be like, no. Waymo would be like, get out.
we make human driven products here at Cadillac. I love that. So robots start actually driving themselves, like visible robots.
There's an angle here about the human driven, and there's an agency called Bywords, and what they do is their whole positioning is, okay, let me just pull it up because it's very good, and I just want to make sure I'm not like botching it as I do. Copy so fast you'll think we use AI. Copy so good you'll know we didn't.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Human-driven copywriting, not AI.
I like that. I don't like.
Wait, so it's a service?
Yeah, it's basically a copywriting agency, but subscription based. So you can pay to have like outbound emails written, like newsletter, a bunch of stuff, and they're working with a team of outsourced copywriters. But you can also pay them like $3 or $4 a month, and they will just do copy ongoing at will, whatever you need. Shout out Kevin Green, friend of his team. They're doing something very cool.
That's great positioning when everyone's using cloud to write nowadays. That's great positioning.
I think AI might get so good you can't tell the difference. Maybe, right? I mean, remember when we had turnitin.com, you had to put stuff in to make sure you didn't plagiarize or whatever. I feel like there is going to be that for AI. I think G2 does it, right? They can tell if you've used AI to write things. And I think that'll start happening for things like email or whatever. You'll say, oh, this is AI generated, like you can tell. But then I think that will train the tool to do even better of a job. I don't know. This is the creepiest thing in the world to me. I don't know if you saw it at CES, those like robotic like girlfriends, basically. I'm like, imagine, I don't know, what was the movie? Her? Like being able to program the stuff to be like too, like there's, I don't know. Great positioning. That's how you keep your job. But I'm also like, are we then training AI to get even better with telling it, oh, this is AI? I don't know.
Yeah. Are you talking about like the movie with Megan Fox that is actually like a robot? Or are you talking about like the event when they actually have like robots that are like human and it's basically just like talking back to you like as a friend or a girlfriend?
I think it was called Her, or so. It was like 2013, and now I'm dating myself. And it was like the guy had a relationship with this.
That was the one with Scarlett Johansson. I think it's called Lobster.
Is it? Am I totally off track? I don't.
No, I think it's called Lobster. Is the one you're talking about.
Me, I don't know. Anyway, it all creeps me out. I don't know, but I obviously think there's a time and place for AI. That's a lot of my hacks are about AI because as a solo and founding product marketer, I have to learn this stuff to survive. It's a love-hate relationship for me when it comes to AI. But.
Tell us more about that, Michelle. Like, how are you using AI in your day-to-day? Because from my perspective, me using AI is like treating it like a Google Q&A. Am I approaching it the right way?
So as with everything, it depends, right? It's like, what are you working on and where do you need the extra help? So I'll use AI. I've started using it to webinars and just social clips, like one click, and I have 30 clips that I can put on our LinkedIn to tease a product or a conversation or whatever. I'll use it for some things like research. I love Perplexity for research. I love Notebook LM to consolidate what I take from Perplexity and my other tools to ask bigger, broader questions or comp intel. Gamma AI, holy cow, I just put in my messaging doc. It built 10 slides for me. Like literally upload my messaging doc. Here's 10 slides, go. And that's our new intro deck for this year.
Nice.
Really cool ways to use AI based on what you're working on. It could be competitive intelligence. It could be whatever. I think the one area I don't love using AI for personally is messaging docs, because the way that you write a good messaging doc to me is much more nuanced, much more human. The way that you write it or the way that you talk about pain points and prepare your teams internally is so much more nuanced than what ChatGPT is going to give me. But I love a Q&A with ChatGPT. If I'm lonely working in my basement, oh, what are you doing today? I don't know. But then you've got Gab and I building agents for or ChatGPTs for different things, and that is, in my opinion, the biggest opportunity product marketers have. There's a site called, I think it's just agent.ai.
I think it is, yeah. You show agent.ai without an S. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So you can basically shop agents that other people have built, and think there's a couple I've seen for like finding your ICP that are interesting. Yeah, I'm a nerd. Like I can't help it. I'm learning as much as I can because again, like I have to do it to survive as a solo product marketer, but it's a love-hate again for sure.
Tell me more about these agents. I don't mean to steal another question here, but this is my first time hearing about this. Michele, Director of PMM Extraordinaire. Educate me.
I want to hear from Gab on what he's actually been building that I'm just seeing what's out there before actually building it. So I know Gab's been really deep in this. I'm curious what you've found that have they actually worked pretty well? Like I just did some research on ICPs, which was like, go find my ICP given this description of my company and what it does.
I'll answer, but then I'm curious to hear about Eric, because you said something very interesting that it doesn't work for a messaging document, but I know Eric has been working with some of the Fletch framework and he got to like
it works so good.
Yeah.
Like so, I don't even want to share it with people because it's so dangerous.
I
haven't even tweaked it more than once. I'm like, oh, if I just make some tweaks, this could be a serviceable. Like I'll $20, take this prompt, you're good. But yeah, you got to do a lot of work. Is what you found. Like through it very deeply,
right?
But I think there's the approach here that for PMMs, I truly agree that like GPT and custom GPTs are a very good like use case. In terms of we're planners, right? It's a big job of input output, and the more context you bring, the better you get results. So whatever you do as a product marketer, you should be able to write a good brief. And Zach has a bunch of prompts on that you can check out. But I know that basically the more context you bring, the more you can get to a starting point when you get something that is good enough. And the rest is basically prompt engineering. If you are working in marketing or in product marketing, you should know how to write. And prompt engineering is basically you figuring out how to always push that level higher, right? It can take a long time to improve a prompt or a custom GPT, but once you have it, you can create different versions of it. So for myself, by example, I started doing some content strategy for some early stage founders. And every time I want to help them with their post or like my own post, I created a GPT that I called Content QA GPT, which is basically just taking a bunch of copywriting frameworks, and I need to bring the context when I start working with the GPT. So it's asking me, what's the funnel part of that post? Who are you writing that post for? And what is basically the pain or frustration that you're trying to tackle here? And then it will check my post, give me suggestion on quote, give me readability stats, give me a bunch of stuff like that. So it's not an AI written post, it's AI supported, because before launching it, it's checking if I have any grammatical mistake, and English is not my first language, so there's a lot, but it's also showing me how I can improve it and basically push a better version. And then it's me, myself, and I that can decide, do I want to implement that stuff? Does it sound too much like GPT? Or do I need to maybe nail down more of the basic of that post?
an internal, it's like a gut check with a GPT. Like,
Exactly.
it'll prompt you with the questions to make sure that the output is potentially better than you have. And one of the things, like you said, prompt engineering's an art, I would say. I don't know. I feel like maybe I've been cheating. Who was it? Someone recommended Prompt Genie, and I've been obsessed. I'm like, here, take this crappy prompt, and it really writes a pretty strong one. So there's a website that I call it like my battleground. It'll compare outputs of ChatGPT versus Claude versus Perplexity or Gemini, like side by side, which is really fun. It's literally like a battle watching them populate. But I'll try it with my prompt, and then I'll try it with Prompt Genie's re-engineered prompt, and it's very fun to see what you'll get out of that. Almost always for me, because my prompts generally suck, the Prompt Genie ones are better. But now you've got me like digging in Eric's like secret sauce over here. I'm like, tell me I'm like the troll under the bridge. I'm like, give me your secrets.
This episode is not for me. I apologize.
No,
This episode is all about you. And so I'd be happy to
Good call.
we can all talk about this for sure, and I'm sure our listeners will be interested. And maybe it's something we do for later, but I definitely want to make sure you get the spotlight.
Okay.
I've got a few questions here real quick, just for clarity here too, because like so really quick, custom GPT is like an agent is a custom GPT on autopilot. Is that my understanding? Is that what I was hearing?
So for the ones that I have, it'll ask you questions to get down to a better result. So what Gab was saying is it'll ask like, but it comes up with the questions. So who is this for? What are you trying to achieve? Do you want me to check grammar? Yes or no? Like it's almost like an internal chat bot to give you a better outcome, but it'll automate like the questions and then what the output is as a result. I don't know. Gab, is that like a good way to explain it?
That's how I would view it. And my understanding is that a lot of talk and buzz right now has been on AI agent. But my understanding is that there's a misconception between basically just AI automation and a custom agent. On agent.ai, there's a lot of use cases, and my understanding is that they're already programmed.
Yes.
All of them have a script, a description, and stuff you can do. But the GPT has been done in a way where it's basically, I guess you can call it AI agent, but I'm not an expert at all on this. But I would say that a custom GPT and an AI agent seems to be in the same scope, but I'm not sure exactly if those are the right definitions.
Yeah. Maybe terminology is weird, Zach. The other thing that I'm seeing, which is really cool, maybe less product marketing focused, but like broader uses of this stuff, is I haven't taken my honeymoon. I've been married for 3 years, haven't taken my honeymoon, too lazy to plan it. I can find an agent and say, okay, book me a honeymoon in Italy for 7 days, right? And it will physically take over your computer and start clicking through things and like finding deals and like confirming, okay, is this what you want? Do you want to confirm payment? Things like that, which is more of the automated AI agent, which I'm too afraid to try. But there's that, and then there's more of the kind of Q&A agent, which is more of a helper versus being more automated and doing the work for you. So I think it'll be interesting how to marry the two when it comes to product marketing. For example, if you want to do competitive intelligence and you can find an automated agent go out and collect that research for you, I'm thinking, I haven't tried it, I've never seen this done well, thinking maybe too far ahead, but something like, can you imagine something like that where it pulls the technical documents or G2 reviews or whatever? There are some tools that you can consolidate all the reviews and then put it into categories. What is the value props that these reviews are talking about, or the use cases, jobs to be done? There are like really cool ways that you can take reviews and categorize this stuff, but I haven't seen it to where it can really like go out into the interwebs and do research for you. So I don't know. Maybe that's wishful thinking.
Who knows? But I'm just gonna be cracking up when someone books a honeymoon stay and then they go to the airport and it didn't show up. Your AI hallucinated on your ass, and they're like, "No."
Took my money, scammed me. It's actually deep seek jokes on you.
Yeah, and the AI is actually just like a prince from a foreign country, just taking your money.
Or like, they spelled your last name NEI instead of NIE,
and you can't board the plane.
This is where I'm like, I'll learn about this stuff, but I will not be the early adopter and actually do it, because no thanks.
we're gonna be like our grandparents who refuse to pay by phone, but will give credit card numbers over the line. And I was like, no, I will never. I wouldn't want to pay online, but I'll give you my credit card number over the phone. And he's like, it's worse. Don't do that.
My in-laws would agree with that. They won't do digital banking, and I'm like, how do you pay your bills? You know, I don't know. It's very true.
I went to Target. Target had to have an explicit sign in Minnesota saying we are no longer accepting checks. Stop writing us checks. I was like, damn.
Ouch! My grandmother would not approve. Oh, what a world.
So I was gonna ask a follow-up question about the sales piece here earlier, but if you guys have any other questions, I'd love to. But
I have one of them, but it's like a little left field. So I think you should go with the sales, and I'll come to it back later.
okay, perfect. Michele, like you said, like you were talking a little bit about your sales expertise. Let's combine a few different things you shared so far. As product marketers, as Gab mentioned, we were like, oh, we are always close to revenue. But for some of organizations, let's be frank, sellers might be closer to revenue if we're in, because they're talking customers in and out. For product marketers who are working with sellers to help them do their job better and may not have the context of what it's like being a seller to know what good should look like, what perspective would you provide to listeners who are helping sellers but might not know what the day ins and outs of what selling should look like? So they I'm curious, what are the guardrails that you see when you're evaluating your work to ensure that it's like giving the reps what they want?
Yeah, I guess maybe the obvious piece part of that is always talk to them, get direct feedback before starting anything. So if you're tasked with a new slide deck, a new asset, whatever, ask them what they're using the most, what they feel like is working, so that you have a starting ground, and ask them why, right? Not just, oh yeah, I like this deck. Okay, why? Is there a specific reason? Is it helpful with objections, things like that? So I think one, just the context of how the sales reps are thinking, maybe an underrated place to start, but it's a good starting place before you develop anything. I also think you have to remember, have to close deals to get that commission check, right? Like they will not spend time on a new feature, a new anything if it's not going to make them money. So if they don't understand the value that brings to getting bigger deals or an upsell opportunity, or if their quota isn't tied to that feature specifically, like they're not going to care. And then if you as a product marketer, depending on how your performance is checked, like I just spoke to a product marketer who her bonus relies on the amount of basically demos done. So you can do a lot of marketing, but you need to actually go through a demo on certain things, which again blew my mind because that's a sales conversation to me, but that's another story. But if that's what is going to get sales to actually make more revenue, like that's what matters at the end of the day. So if you're not finding a way to get them to close more deals faster, in terms of sales support, you're doing something wrong, right? And that kind of also is a weird dichotomy if you don't know that mindset of sales also can ask for a lot, right? Sales doesn't always know what they need to do that. So many times they'll say, okay, I need a new pitch deck for whatever, or this persona, or this vertical, or I need a snappy new one pager for something. You're like, but what's why? What's the real reason you're asking for this? Did you lose a deal? Did you feel like you weren't prepared for a certain objection? Like, why are you asking for this? Which is also helps us come together and say, okay, I'm not just going to spend my time building this because sales asked for it. There might be a better option or something we already have to support the reason they're asking for this too. The lines of communication open, but just understand at the end of the day, like they have numbers to hit. Like their paychecks rely on it, and you can't mess with that.
So pretty much what you're saying here is just know the so what of how this is going to help them hit quota, and then also have a really good BS meter. And I really like that example you gave, because I remember a time when I was at Dropbox and a rep was like, "Hey, can I get a comparison chart against Microsoft in Dropbox?" And I was just like, "I'm curious, like, how is this going to be helping you your deal?" They're like, "The customer asked for it." So I was, what's the context? Are they thinking about? Is that what they're evaluating us against? Is this like something they want to pass to leadership? The person didn't know. And I'm like, person, I'm not going to waste my time on this. We are not selling Microsoft. We're selling Dropbox. So maybe get me some more context of why this is going to help you win, and then we will talk. Yeah.
Yeah, and give a good example of that. It happened to me yesterday. I felt like I was in heaven. So I'm sitting on a call. I knew the ask was I need a matrix against us and this competitor. I knew going in that was the ask. So I already had I'm going to talk you off of this if we're going to do something value based in my head. The lead who's involved with the deal was like, "Hey, I need this because the champion knows everything about this competitor and why it doesn't work for them. They need to get past IT because IT is going to be trying to make this hodgepodge thing work together. So we need to come in clear, concise, and say they don't have this feature, so they can't do this function." And I'm like, okay, I would love to make you this feature matrix. When do you need it? It was the first time ever I was like, there you go. That is a rational reason to say that. You've done and they showed me the slide work. They had all of the value stuff built out. They just had this last piece that they said, we just can't get past IT because they think they're smarter than us. And great reason to bring out the feature matrix at that point. So I totally love that. And I got a question, actually, Michelle. You're talking about how does it help them close more deals and close more of them faster? I want to know your perspective on disqualifying bad fits. And does your sales reps love hearing that out of you as well so they can get more time with their good fits?
So this is a good response to what Zach was saying. I think maybe as product marketers, you may not be aware of how many times your sales reps are going to hear no. Or I don't know sometimes if you appreciate how many no's it takes to get to a yes. So it's not just closing more deals more quickly. It's like how much BS do you have to go through to get there? And I think what's interesting, at least where I am now, and maybe bigger enterprise companies, and I'm sure this is true of B2C probably as well, but I've been in B2B all my life, is like, get that stuff out quickly. No, sales does not love hearing that, but if you can give them the tools in the first couple calls, like the questions to ask, to say, okay, this isn't a good fit, and here's why, not just yes or no, move on, don't waste your time, but here's why. So if they say this, for example, we have competitors that are HIPAA compliant, right? That is their thing. That is their claim to fame. It is what it is. So we might, if anyone that has HIPAA compliance as an absolute necessity, maybe we won't be the best solution for them. And you have to be okay with that. And then you just give examples, right? Like you don't want to lose X, Y, and Z deals that we maybe lost in the last stretch they'd worked on for 12 months because of something like HIPAA compliance that you could have ruled out in the beginning. So of course, no sales rep likes to hear it, but when you can say it in the context of here's why we want to do that, and here's what a good opportunity looks like that we can bring to you by doing X, Y, and Z. So like we can find a better fit by trying out this messaging, or leads that come through this certain campaign or process is a much better fit. Focus on that is a much better approach. But as part of that, on our side, like you do have to get the messaging and you have to know what to look for to disqualify, not just to disqualify, just to weed stuff out. Like you have to be very clear on what that means and why that's maybe not the best fit. That takes a lot of research, takes a lot of time to make sure you have that right, because you also, especially in enterprise, don't want to disqualify a huge company inappropriately. Definitely a balance of what that looks like. And no, a good sales rep isn't ever going to want to hear that, but you also don't want to waste your time. So,
boy, I really like that.
To me this week too, so I'm just striking. I hit the lottery. He said that same thing. I don't want to waste my time with blah blah blah. He's get me more of these other ones. I'm like, yeah, that's what I like to hear. You only want to eat the good stuff off of the buffet, not the disgusting.
There's no such thing as disgusting stuff at a buffet. Everything at a buffet is fire.
You've never been to a Bonanza.
He's never heard of it. Never heard of it.
Or
you don't know what it is too.
Ponderosa. There was the one, I think.
Look, I think that's all like Pennsylvania, bro.
Dude, it's like fluffy Jello whipped cream mixture.
Yeah, but dessert is another thing, right? Like dessert on a buffet, I feel like it's always hit or miss. But what I think you mean is, it's not disgusting, but I think SNL actually did a sketch on that, but there's like the penne rosa salad or something like that, which is, it's all right. But that's it. That's all. It's just meh. Like you're happy it's there if you have anything else, but it's not the food you crave.
Yeah.
Imagine
really,
give me that Golden Corral food, all right?
Imagine us as
The-
marketers. It's just meh. Great, I've done my job. Like my messaging, it's just meh.
it's just bad.
Yeah,
It's just the
because
jello.
you made sure, yeah, you made sure that everyone is basically agreeing with you.
Yeah.
Jello.
Like I think this is the biggest enemy of bad messaging. It's by committee, because you're like, all right, I need to please the CEO, the CTO, everyone else, and then you just get Frankenstein monster of a messaging.
Yeah,
Yep.
but Michelle, I really liked what you said earlier about, and then Eric, you added on to this, and I think this is a really key point to hit home. Of it's okay to dequalify leads early, and having that volume of dequalified, because this is the reason why I say this, is that I've been in situations where product is late on delivering a product, at no shock, but they will want sellers to start talking to prospects about the product.
Yep.
They would want, and then they are told, they're like, it's fine, let them just talk to them and just say it's coming out this date. But it's like, going back to what you said, both Michelle and Eric, is that sellers don't want to waste their time talking to people that are not going to be a fit, that are not going to end up buying in the first place. So tell them up front who's not going to be a good fit. I like what you said, Michelle, earlier. What are the questions that they should ask, and what should they be listening for that might determine, hey, this, hold off, like this is not going to be the right fit for you. Because I've had some product people being like, oh, we're not HIPAA compliant, but maybe if we can sell them this feature. No, just quit being desperate. Like, we don't have the feature. Let it go. Let them go somewhere else. But yeah, that was it. But I really liked what you both were sharing here.
The best thing about that is like when product managers for me if they do get, and I appreciate the passion, but I like to say if they need us, like they'll be back. Like I'll try. I wasn't gonna try the Arnold Schwarzenegger voice. I considered it, but they'll be back if they need us. So.
Exactly. It's so true. It's like going out on the first date and someone says, oh, like, I prefer, oh yeah, me too, I prefer that too. And then you found out you're allergic to peanuts, and you're like, oh, don't worry, this, I like this. This happens all the time. Like, come on now.
Is this a personal experience? No, I'm kidding.
I just thought of you just gave me another dating analogy, Zach. If like you find out he or she's in law school or medical school but doesn't quite have that degree yet, you're okay with maybe waiting in for the long haul. Right?
Exactly.
Same situation. If there's value at the end of the tunnel, I'll drive towards it.
Exactly.
Here's my
your own
mixtape.
game.
Here's my
Your
mixtape.
own game.
I'm gonna be
some
somebody.
people are going to want quicker returns, right? They're going to be like, no, if you don't have it this week, I don't want it. The other people are going to be like, oh yeah, it takes a little time. I'm going to do another analogy.
My credit score's 430, but give it 2 years, it'll be 650. Come on now.
Well, but then to your point, what questions do you ask on the first date versus second date, right? Like, how do you disqualify that date on the first date? What are those important questions?
One question: ask them about their credit score. If it's below 600, there's no second date. They ain't paying for that meal.
Yeah, exactly. While we're on the subject of dating, that's a weird intro, but we talked about working with the sales team and making sure that they're actually able to qualify people. I think for earlier stage companies, or especially someone who's starting a PMM role, you don't exactly know what the ideal ICP look like. And Key Play wrote like an article and a guide about it, and it are calling it the ICP translation gap. Executive know what the ICP is, right? But you're a salesperson, you're trying to hit your quota, and what's the ICP when you're seeing it? And there is like a big like translation gap as it is.
Mm-hmm.
A concept I very much is the anti-ICP. And it's the same with dating, right? When you first start dating, you don't necessarily know what you like. You have some ideas, but I know, oh, I don't like cigarettes, I don't like smoking. If the person smokes, this is a red flag for me. I feel like the anti-ICP can be a good way, at least in earlier conversation with sales, to understand is actually who are we not about, and how can we use that to clarify our ICP a little bit. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up.
It's the same. The thing I like to talk about with that, because it's so true, is even bring it back to product marketing, right? What are we and what aren't we? It's the same concept across the board, I think. And you probably know this, Gab, like, especially when you're looking at startups and founders, it's not even who's ICP and who's not. It's everyone's our ICP. Like, we'll talk to anyone and everyone who wants to. And then as a product marketer, you're like, yeah, but so you're telling me Sally, who owns like a flower store down the street, wants my enterprise solution. No, and there's money that goes with that. So I only say that because you think about the challenge you have in defining product marketing, what we are and what we aren't. Think about that more broadly. Like, you don't want someone coming to you with things that aren't in your job, and neither would your potential ICPs. So I like that framework because you always think going towards something versus like, same with disqualifying, right? It's not a fit, and that's okay, because you'll find the people that are, and they'll stick with you longer. So
and one little tip too for everybody. We learned this I forgot what last week. Put that in terms of like things to the business. So as you're saying, it is like disqualifying them, like that is losing money, right? That is a so much more impactful message to that VP C-level leadership is, no, I'm not disqualifying people from pipeline. I'm saving the company money by throwing out bad fit people before they waste our time.
Yeah.
Right. That's
Exactly.
a really different conversation. Even for like probably the AE to understand is like, we're wasting your money by giving you this prospect. So we're going to disqualify them before they get to you. And that's changed my thinking dramatically over the last 7 days on like how I communicate some of these things throughout the org, instead of just like what they are in terms of what we call them, like what they are to the actual business itself.
There is no greater frustration in sales than when marketing says, we got a new roundup of leads for you, and they're all duds. Like when I say duds, like you calling people who are working at nursing homes and you're selling like restaurant services, and you're like, why am I talking to this person? And they're like, oh, they fill out the form. So I get that. If this is not an ICP, do not send them to sales, because it's just gonna hurt the relationship more than it's gonna benefit you.
I mean, that's an interesting part of the conversation too, is like, how do you pre-select that before even getting into sales? There is this crazy conception, and this isn't necessarily a product marketing rule, but from MQL to SQL, is that we're just gonna give you any and all leads. Okay, they downloaded an ebook, great. Sales take care of it. And as a salesperson, I lived and breathed in Salesforce. You have to close out all of those leads and explain why. And if you didn't talk to them, regardless of, if they weren't a fit, like you have to explain why. It's a process. So that's a great call out. Quality really does matter, which is another reason why if you're a product marketer and you're based on MQLs, run, truly. Like
exactly.
Hey,
why you didn't email this person? Because their email's hotmama99@gmail.com. They don't want us to email them.
I've actually never even heard this point of view before, and that must mean I don't talk to sellers enough about how they use Salesforce. But you just like open that up. So yeah, something comes in, we say, go ahead, have at it, go hunt. And they end up having to actually do laborious work into closing out that opportunity, which they realistically shouldn't have had to do that work on. So explain that a little bit more, how painful that is, and if we can maybe turn that pain into like conversation as we're talking to our reps.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Before I was in marketing, so I started in sales. I would remember marketing saying, oh, we have a lead list of 3,000 people, and we got this from a webinar and an ebook and an event. And isn't this great? You have so many leads to go after. This is perfect. So that lead list gets uploaded into my Salesforce, assigned to me under my account, right? I have to go through every single one. And if I close out the contact, explain why, right? And at one point, the business was like, well, why didn't you call this person? Because you would say, I emailed them, here's the email, or I called them and here's what happened, right? You have all of those notes in your CRM. But if you just close them out because you know it's not a good fit, because you check their email, you check their phone number isn't valid, so you can't call them anyway. Or you go to their website and it doesn't work. Or again, you get a 404 error. It's just truly not a good fit. You have to do all of that heavy lifting and close out all these leads. So maybe from a list of 1,000, you have 10 that you want to talk to, and you just spend your whole day going through a lead list that doesn't work for you, instead of actually calling the 10 people that would potentially be a good fit. So the time spent in that transition is really hard, though I think it's interesting because, again, it's just a disconnect in what metrics people are, like what's proving success. And I also don't know if that's product marketing's role to do that cleanup, but how can help at the event or whatever, make sure they're the right leads. How many times have you gone to an event and someone's like, you didn't talk to a person, you made eye contact, and they're like, can I scan your badge? Can I scan your badge? And because you just at the end of the day want to say, oh yeah, we scanned 1 million badges. Okay, I have nothing to do with, and then sales has to clean it up. And that's a really tough way to build a relationship. So if there's, I don't know, I think about this often, like I go through gong calls and I'm saying, okay, how can we disqualify based on initial conversation, like first calls that people are having? Like, I love Gong. I'm like a Gong fangirl. I have a million filters that like tell me this stuff and I get an alert like, oh, this was a bad call and here's why. Some fun stuff you can do with Gong as well. But it is, yeah, I take this stuff for granted. It's a pain in the butt to spend that time when you should just focus on the 10 people that potentially are a good fit.
Timing in sales is so crucial as well, right? If, for example, when you find a tool and you want to have a demo or you want to book something, and then it's been like 3 and 4 days, you're like, what the hell are you doing? But sometimes it's just this salesperson is doing their job. They're going through 1,000 of list of leads that are shit, and you are in the 10 that are actually legit. But the time that it takes to manually go through it is just basically slowing down that timing. And by the time I'm actually talking to you with that very long speed to lead, I might have booked something with a competitor that has a better routing tool. And that will just make me look at the competition, find that it's a better timing, already seeing the pricing on the website, and basically being ready to buy the software. So I feel like the timing and the relevance are super crucial. And if you're unable to help and enable the sales team to make their job faster and focusing on the right accounts, you're not necessarily doing a good job.
That's a really good point. And I think that's like, there's a perspective you guys are both hitting on, is that as sellers, like you're implicitly priced at which accounts to go after based off the advertising present to you. So if it's like a higher intent that they want to talk to us. So that pushback where like leadership's like, well, why did this like seller talk to this person? It's like you said earlier, Michelle, the rep has a quota to hit. They're going to prioritize their time based off what's the highest likelihood of getting them to that number. Like sellers are not customer support. Like my last example I'm going to share here is I had one person on a team at one time, hey, like we should have the sellers talk about our thought leadership. I'm like, why? Because we really wrote this really cool article. And I was like, that's not their job. That has nothing to do with quota. Like, why should they talk about this on the call? Like, it makes no sense. But it goes back to what you guys were saying earlier. So like, really good call out.
I would like to maybe shift gear a little bit because Michelle, you participated in a lot of PMA events. Just last week, you did a presentation at the one in DC. And you're also having a lot of coffee chats with product marketers. Do you have any prediction for us into where the role is headed or any secret trends that you might be seeing?
Oh man. Yeah, I think there's some good and some bad. I think it's interesting because I think something's never changed. I think stakeholder alignment is still a huge struggle that I get questions on all the time. Same with OKRs. What should or we should not be measured on? So I think a lot of it's really stayed the same. I think it's also one of those things that it's like fun to vent. I hate to say that, but we all deal with chaos every day. And we are like the center of that chaos. And I say that more of a supportive thing, like networks like this is a great way to hear what those obstacles and those challenges are. And we're like in this together because we face a lot of the same things, but maybe we solve it in different ways. So I say that because that's like the now, and some things in terms of challenges haven't changed. Some of the things are where the role is going, where things are maturing. I think number one, I've seen more VPs of product marketing like as a title and position than I've ever seen before, which is really reassuring to me because previously, back to what we were talking about first off, is what is the path for product marketers? Is it CMO? Is it CPO? And even as a CMO, we're not really marketers. Like that's certainly not my dream personally. And so what does that career path look like? But again, seeing more VPs of product marketing is reassuring that there's now starting to truly get a seat at the table for that more strategic role. And with that, more clarity on what the product marketing function is within an organization, which has been a challenge forever. So I think that's really exciting. The other thing I've seen, which makes me a little nervous that I'm personally not loving, is a lot of roles that are open that are like growth and product marketing together. So director of growth and product. To me, those are very different functions, very different specialties, right? To me personally, and maybe I'm being biased because I don't know as much about like growth and demand gen as maybe I want to, but to see that combined is almost like you're trying to put too much into one role, which is a little scary to me in terms of, again, where we fit in and does it cause product marketing to continue to have an identity crisis. So there's that as well. And I think thirdly, like, again, just product marketers learning to find tools and ways to do things faster, more efficiently. I think AI will be our friend. I think product marketers that learn how to use it will eventually outperform those that don't. And so I think we have to embrace the change that's going on in technology and get excited about how can we not only use this stuff in our day-to-day job, but teach each other how to do this. Because now, like you said, with your messaging, I'm very eager. I'm like, I want to know. And Gab, with the GBTs you're doing, and there's just so much cool stuff we can learn from each other. And I do think that'll end up playing a role eventually as well.
Michelle, you forgot to mention my walks outside too, as being part of that evolution.
I just you look too well. It's got to be AI, Zach. You must be using AI to make those.
Look, I'm like AI's dope though. We got to get outside once in a while and get the fresh air. I'm like, AI cannot simulate nature. Come on now.
What is fresh air? I work in my basement 24/7. No, you're right. We're not going to do work if we're stuck down here with stinky hockey gear and a ton of bourbon.
Yeah, look, y'all saying AI is the future, but money y'all gonna be having vitamin D deficiencies because no one's going outside.
We won't make it that far. We won't make it past 5 years.
Scurvy.
It's fine.
I'm so good with AI, but my bones are so brittle from sitting in this desk for 16 hours.
I am turning you into a shrimp. You can't see it, but like, neck is a real thing. I'm just 10 years. We're all I don't know. Now I'm losing it. It's fine.
Yeah, here's a free promo. Get one of these little mouses, little sideways angle. So you're just.
I bought it, Eric. I'm getting it on Friday.
Yeah.
And it's actually there's actually a discount. At least in Amazon Canada, it was like 30% off.
That's right. They got them on discount. So only time you'll hear me using the word game changer with technology.
I'm triggered. I have a list of buzzwords I absolutely hate and what to use instead because I can't. I just vomit. It's fine. Game changer, revolutionary. I don't know.
Synergies was definitely one of the worst ones.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, can we all? What triggers us in product launches? Oh my god.
Exactly.
Round break.
Oh god.
I don't want it to break ground. I don't know.
So Michelle, thank you for sharing all of this. Where can people find you more if they want to learn more about you, learn more about your spicy takes, your PMM hacks, and everything like that?
Yeah. Oh god, a little too spicy. Yeah, LinkedIn. Find me on LinkedIn. I'm there probably too much, but just don't tell my company. No, I'm kidding.
Awesome. Michelle, thank you very much for being here with us today for the second time. We'll see. Maybe we'll have you for a third time at some point, but I don't want to disappoint the guests in advance if we don't. Thank you very much. And it was another episode of We're Not Marketers.
Later.
Bye.
Thanks.
Ciao, ciao. Thank you for listening to We're Not Marketers. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe, review our podcast, and share this episode with other PMMs. Thanks again, and see you soon.